Good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about pink tourmaline, which I've identified as the October birthstone. Now, most people say, "Wait, I thought the October birthstone was opal," and they are right. My little sister is an opal baby, and and I recognize that opal is the most well-known birthstone, but pink tourmaline is an alternative. Most of the birthstones actually have alternatives. And because opals are cabochons, normally they are cut as domed gemstones, similar to cat's eye, similar to moonstone. I prefer to do faceted gems, cut gems. And because opals are not cut, they are smooth and round, I prefer to work with a faceted gemstone. Now, I do think that, I'd love to see some people do the pink tourmaline with opal type colors and try to make it look like a domed gemstone. That's a challenge to any of you who want to take it. But I wanted just to go with the faceted piece. So that's why I chose this beautiful pink tourmaline. So let's get started. So according to old Egyptian legends, tourmalines, which come in all different colors, on the way from the depths of the earth to the surface of the earth, it passed through a rainbow and it picked up all the colors of the rainbow. And that's why it's called the gemstone of the rainbow. I love that. It comes in such beautiful colors. But we're going to talk specifically about pink tourmaline today. I looked up a little bit about it, and I've learned that it really resonates with the heart chakra, and that it fosters feelings of love and forgiveness, especially towards yourself. And I love that. So it fosters feelings of love, of compassion, of gratitude. And in terms of healing, it also soothes and protects the heart muscle, according to people who use gemstones in their healing practice. Here's the gemstone that inspired this month's pattern. I love everything about this beautiful gemstone. I love the cut. It's a cushion cut. It's just a beautiful shape. I love the colors, the peaches, the sort of the cotton candy colors, those lovely pinks. And the lines within her are just spectacular, especially that little star in the middle. And so I wanted to show you how I faceted her up. Remember, we've talked about the fact that, I love looking at gemstones. I love their color, the way the light plays across the facets. And then I start thinking about how I might be able to carve it up into a quilt block. And so here we go. I want to just show you how I cut her up. So the first one was to look for the through line. Remember, we always talk about that through line. What's that one line that's going to cut your pattern in half? And then we're going to look for the next one. And look at this. It's just turning into be two major diagonals. Like which one? Like the sapphire. And even more, I cut those little triangles, those four little triangles up into two additional sections, and they spin around the top of the pink tourmaline. This is just like sapphire, isn't it? Isn't it? The only difference are these beautiful, lovely, voluptuous curves all the way around. And we're going to talk about how to manage curves when you're working with freezer paper. And so here's my girl. And you can see, again, she's not symmetrical in color, is she? She's relatively symmetrical in cut, but look at the color. Look at this dark area right here where all the others are this wonderful wine fuchsia color. Okay, this lovely dark area over here, but not necessarily in the same place over on the right. Down here, you've got these bright flashes of the light next to that bright, brilliant pink. And up top, it's a little softer. Let me go back to the picture of our girl. There she is. And again, you can see she's not symmetrical either. Here we've got those bright flashes, and actually she's kind of rotated 90 degrees from what I had below. But here's that bright flash of white, and then more of the softer hues on the other side. And here is the pattern with all the codes that you understand now, the unique identifier, the color code, all the hash marks. You can read this. The first thing I want to do, remember, is to put your regular paper up on your design wall. if you look at the back, it just is regular old paper. It doesn't have that waxy, plasticky substance on the back, that shiny, smooth substance on the back. You want to put your regular paper up on your design wall. It's your freezer paper that you want to cut up. And the first thing we're going to do is take your highlighter and go around the edges of the block and then delineate the different sections. And remember, we talked about the different sections just a second ago. We have these two lines that you will delineate, and then you're going to go in here and you're going to look for everything that has, for example, 8 and then the 7, and find the line between it, and that's the edge of your section. That's the section line you want to highlight with your highlighter. Again, here we go. This is all 5s, all 6s. This is the line we want to mark. All 4s, all 3s, line we want to mark, 1s and 2s, line we want to mark. Since I've already done that, let's start cutting up our pattern. Now that you've cut everything apart, we're going to sort them into color code. You're going to look at the L1s through the L5s, which are the lavenders, and then the P1s through the P3s, which are your pinks. I think I'm going to mix mine up a little bit. I'm not going to use the actual lavenders and pinks that go to pink tourmaline. I've made a few of them. There you go. I've made a few pink tourmalines. So I wanted to experiment with some fabric that I had. I was looking around my studio and I noticed a box underneath one of the shelves, and it was fabric that I had painted years ago. And it was in all peaches and golds and pinks. Lovely. In fact, I think some of this might have been what I painted with Ricky Timms on the quilt show with Alex Anderson and Ricky Timms. But it was just lovely shades of fire and pink and magenta. Wanted to do something with them because I love this so much. It's just yummy, yummy colors. And I was thinking about it. I thought, you know what? I think I want to do a Podparacha sapphire. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Look at these. Oh, Podparacha sapphire. Now, most of us think of sapphires as blue, but sapphires come in all different colors of the rainbow, kind of like pink tourmalines. Podparacha is, it also means lotus flower. And it was used to describe the beautiful pinks and corals and peaches that you find in many species of lotus flowers. Isn't this a gorgeous gemstone? And here's more. Again, I love the coral, the deep red, the peaches, just spectacular. And this lovely girl. So you can see they range from very intense, like the one on the left, and they're getting gradually softer. And then you've got this spectacular ring with a Podparacha sapphire. Good job, everybody. Remember, take it easy on those curves, slow your roll. Make sure you get all your hash marks onto the seam allowance before you take your pieces off, and ease those curves in, and enjoy. Have a great time. Now, I want to also share with you a fun conversation that I had a couple of months ago with my friend Lori Watt, who owns, with her husband, Simon Watt, Mayer and Watt. They are international gem dealers, and we had a blast this summer. I want to share that with you now. Have fun. Take care. See you next week. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to introduce you to a friend of mine and a rock star in her own right, Lori Watt. She is one of the few women that really broke into the international gem trade years ago, a few decades ago, and has really been setting trends in that industry ever since. She and her life partner and business partner, and I guess partner in kids and grandkids too, Simon, have a company called Mayer and Watt. They're international gem dealers, and they deal in pure eye candy. Lori, it's great to have you here.
Very kind of you.
All true, all true. Well, you know, I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago, actually. You're all over the internet. And they were talking about the fact that you and Simon have been doing this for 40 years. Now, let me tell you, 40 years ago, I was not doing what I'm doing now, right? I truly have been reinventing myself. I get bored with things. I, try to find something else to really ignite my passion. So when someone is involved with something for, decades, this must be your passion.
I'm very fortunate in life that I tried the college thing. It wasn't really successful for me. I moved to LA with 20 bucks in my pocket, and I met up with a group of people who happened to be the first really modern round of GGs, gemologists out of the GIA. And I was lucky that there were jobs being introduced into the gem business that were not for family only. They usually generationally in our industry, everything goes from one family member to another family member. It's the best security and it's the easiest way to transfer the merchandise. In the 80s, late 70s, there was a new insurgence of young gem dealers, and I happen to have caught that wave. So it's been that way for my whole life.
So you were part of the early generation of folks who really dove into this industry. What drew you to the colored gemstones?
I was fortunate enough to connect up with one of the best gemstone cutters in the world. And all he cut was color, mainly East African stones at that point in his career. It was an emerging market. It was brand new. And the advantage for someone like us is that there's no, with diamonds, you've got the whole listing of the Rappaport numbers and prices. And so what happens with diamonds is they're all controlled. And the cutting and the distribution and everything goes through a whole tunnel. Where with colored gems, it was much more of a cowboy's market. And the material for me being, having come from an art background in college, was the coloration and the variation, and the crystallography was so unique and exciting that we were drawn right into it.
Oh, I love the idea. Yes, he suckered into it. I mean, who doesn't love color? We're all quilt makers on this end of the conversation, and color just absolutely gobsmacks me. You can see my sewing, my thread rack behind me, and actually there's some of your gems above me here that I use in my treasure hunting class.
Well, what your audience don't know is 2 minutes ago we turned this on to first check all our systems out, and the first thing I said was, "Wow, look at all that color behind you! Oh, and look, there are photos."
Different industry, same passion. Absolutely, absolutely. I heard Simon say once that once you've seen a D flawless, there's nothing else to see in the diamond world. But with the gemstones, with the colored gemstones, it's like deep sea fishing. You never know it's going to get pulled out of the ground tomorrow or next month or next year. It might be something completely different. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, that one of the comments that we often tell people is, D flawless, that is no color at all. Blue has a range from one end of the universe to the other end of the universe. Mm-hmm. There is no one blue. Yes. And every time you see it, you see something new.
Right. Exactly. One of the things that really strikes me about your work, and not really knowing what's going to come next, is having the faith and the commitment, I guess, and the patience to really watch the market evolve. Now, I know you work like crazy to make your business a success, but there is also a lot to chance. And I think for people who are entrepreneurs, people in my business who are starting small businesses and going through this difficult time, it's really hard and it's emotionally hard, and it's fearful to move through the day without, really saying, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next? How do you deal with that?
Well, there are a few things. One of my favorite lines is, we buy what we love, so forever we'll love it. Yeah. So if it doesn't sell forever, I have something I love. So it makes it somewhat easy to say, oh my God, look, there's a new kind of morganite color coming out from Madagascar that I've never seen before. I'm not really concerned of who's going to buy it. I'm more concerned of, do I love it? Yes. Because if I love it, I can go out to my customers and say, oh my God, you can't believe what we just found.
You can't fake that kind of enthusiasm.
No, and it's real. I mean, that's that. And usually, because I'm dealing with artists like you're dealing with artists, or consumers that are influenced by the colors and what they're looking at. If you're excited about it, it's really a much better way to sell something rather than being a factory worker that is just following the lines of engagement.
Exactly. Well, the other fun thing I wanted to share with everybody is that Lori has given me permission to feature about 26, 27 of her beautiful gemstones in my upcoming book called Gemstone Quilts. It's published by C&T Publishing. It'll be out in October. So thank you for that. It's been so much fun. It was so hard to pick out the ones that I wanted to feature, but I was able to marry up some of the content with some of your beautiful gemstones. So can we talk about a few of them?
Before you go there, I want everybody to understand we are a very private industry that we keep internal from wholesale to wholesale before it hits the retail. MJ came into my life. Her enthusiasm for the quilt and the art and the gems combining blew my mind. And the combination together is an augmentation that honestly isn't a profit zone for me. It's a passion for me to work with MJ. I just thought I'd add that little bit.
Thank you for that. It's a delight and a passion for me to work with you too. Obviously, I'm having a wonderful time. So let's take a look at, all right, here is the some information about the website that you have. And can you tell us about the rough stones that are sitting to the right of this image?
During a trip, we kind of made Sri Lanka a second home away from home. My husband's British, and the Sri Lankans are actually more British than the British. So it's fun when we go there because it's all about tea, cricket, and gemstones. And, you know, really, that's kind of our life, not the cricket, but for him it is. So when we started going to Sri Lanka, we often would go to Ratnapura, which is the gem mining district. And it's a whole experience all in itself. But what you learn about is what's coming out of the ground. And because we're working with many generational miners, what we got a hold of was so wonderful. What you're looking at there is a mixture of pebbles, gem pebbles, that come out of a mine run. They're all mixed. They've been sorted to all being sapphire because in the same mine you might get garnets or chrysoberyls or spinels. So this has been sorted to variety. And then what will happen the next stage with this is it'll be sorted again to color and to which ones get heated by man or which ones need to be cobbed. Well, the cutting pack process is a whole nother conversation. But this is just a parcel of
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Okay, real quick, conversational cul-de-sac here. This reminds me of a story all of a sudden. When I was in the 8th grade, my gemology, or my science teacher, we talked about gemology, and they talked about the fact that you can find rubies in streams and rivers, like the Platte River in Nebraska. So that weekend, I made my dad take me and my family to the Platte River to go find rubies. And her older brother just howled at us. And so the question is, did we find rubies? And the answer is yes. They are pink quartz, but they're my rubies.
That's the thing about gemstones. I love when people tell me that they're going to go to the mines and they're going to buy. And, you know, we always remind people that the gem business is the second oldest business on earth. And it really is the result of the first. So if you want to meet rug dealers, camel dealers, and people who all over the world are in the game of gems, go ahead, go to the mines, but don't think you're going to get a deal.
Gotcha. So basically, there's more color to this industry than just the stones.
Yes, exactly. Good comment.
Why don't you tell us about this? This is one of my favorite gemstones, and I use this all the time in my teaching, in my classes. Just real quickly, I teach what I talk about when I show this quilt. What I talk about when I show this gemstone is the fact that it literally is just a 4-patch quilt, right? It's split down the middle and it's across the side. And every single quadrant has its own personality. It has its own colorway. It has its own, you know, really a feeling.
and it all fits together. So when people ask me about making these kinds of designs, do they have to be symmetrical? The answer is no. In fact, the less symmetrical, the better. So tell us about this one.
Well, again, I don't know how deep into the history you want to go, but tanzanite was a material that was first discovered, I think, around 6768. It was marketed directly into Tiffany's. And what they found out was in the first run of tanzanites, you find mineral that has been heated in the ground naturally. And it was, when you first hit a pocket, you often sort out to the finest color that you can market. It's a whole nother end of the business. So Tiffany's enjoyed this material because it was blue like a Sri Lankan sapphire. So it had blue and purple highlights because it was multi-level coloration, trichroic. And what they loved about it was that they called it the new sapphire. So through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Tiffany's did a lot of the promotion. What ended up was that a lot of the material coming out of the ground had, as you can see in this slide, a bit of gray, a bit of green, lilac, and all different colors around it. If you heat that color, you drive out certain color zones like yellow, and you get left with more of the purple blue colors. And that's what they were looking for. About 10 years ago, there was a big pocket that came up that had some phenomenal colors. And I know you have some slides of these that were very pure and not as blended as some of these other colors. Like if you look at the bottom, the pink one on the bottom right, if I'm saying it right, that stone is actually the most valuable of them, even though my preference is the center stone that you're showing, because I like the complexity of the colors. But what they found out was that there was actually a market that we were developing, irregardless of Tiffany's market, for these fancy colors. So we were blessed with a big lot of fancy colors. It's definitely running out. I can't even touch a stone like that square right now. It's just not available in the ground. So that's kind of the tanzanite story, if that helps.
Nice, nice. So zoisites are unheated tanzanites. Can you find zoisites all around the country, all around the world? But it's just in Tanzania, there was this cache of these beautiful heated stones that
The
came up.
only place they've ever located zoisite in a gem material is in Tanzania.
Oh, gotcha.
It's yeah, I'm thinking, tanzanite is definitely only from Tanzania.
Okay, okay, good, good. Thank you. I love the fact that these gemstones come in all these different colors, and it's just gorgeous, just gorgeous.
So again, what people don't really understand about mining and that end of the business is that to break into the earth and take material out to segregate gem material is very disruptive to the earth. And you have to do it with respect, which some people don't, but thank God there are some that do. What happens is it's very difficult to mine in the United States. You have OSHA rules, you have mining laws, you have health rules, and and the land itself is worth so much more than in some of the third world countries. So taking that premise, we all have gem material all over the world, but it is not always that simple to mine all over the world. So this is a rare occasion where they struck a pocket, and I have to tell you, my history isn't perfect, so I would love to, I could find out and tell you later, which is what I always tell my clients when I don't know. But they struck a pocket in Oregon that produced this type of feldspar that's called sunstone. And it is magnificent because it varies in color. It goes from, we have dark green ones, we have orange ones, we have yellow ones, we have, there's one of the, now the ruddy orange is the rarest and hardest to find and large material. Because this is all American mined, a lot of American cutters do the cutting on it. And one of the signatures of a lot of the American cutters are these engraved or sculpted pieces. So both these stones would have come from America and would have been cut in America.
This blew my mind when I saw this come up on your website a couple of maybe last year.
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of holding this beautiful stone about an inch in my hand.
It's
And
huge.
oh, and I couldn't take it home in my pocket because the price tag was a little up there for me.
Little
So
dear.
about 40,000 maybe.
You know, I years ago I stopped memorizing weights, prices. It's just too many stones in my life.
That stuck in my
Uh,
head. I was stunned. So thank you for sharing it. It was really a fun experience. I love this. I would love to make numerous art quilts based on this stone. Diving in and finding the hidden landscapes here. I think would be just
Well, I was just about to say, MJ, one of the coolest things, if you go back to that stone, is if you look in the top kind of slightly left corner of the fat part of the pear shape, right in there, well, a little bit further up, right in there, you
right.
see what we call schiller. And the
Oh,
schiller is these magical little inclusions that line up that are really very unique to sunstone. So if you ever taking a gemology test, or you were in a store and they were trying to say, oh, isn't this a fascinating quartz? You could look at it immediately and say, oh, no, there's schiller in there. That's a sunstone. Yeah, very unique.
right. I was going to call it angel dust, but that probably wouldn't be the technical term.
You know what? That's even prettier.
Well, let's talk about this. This is a Mozambique purple garnet, and I love this because it's in my book, and it's going to be it is the project that people can make as they read along from the beginning to the end of the book, how I make my gem quilts. This is the lovely little gemstone that I used as the project inspiration, and I'm calling the project inspiration the lovely Lori.
I'm so touched because I have to tell you, it's one of my favorite moments in the industry over the last few years. This was a new pocket. Rarely do you get garnet that is a pure purple like that. Usually it's got more red or it's got more orange, but a pure purple is almost unheard of. And it was a fascinating pocket. It was very, very small. It's right on the Zimbabwe border. And it grew in like flat sheets rather than crystal balls or, more crystallized structures. It was very flat. So although it was unique and remarkable, it was very difficult to cut because the material was so thin. So a lot of the stones that you see from this mine are often what we refer to as windowed, or they're like elongated, thin stones. So when you get a stone, even though that's not that large of a stone, but when you get a stone that is that well cut, it's very rare for this material because you can see there's no window and all you get are facets reflected.
Okay. This is stunning. Just so beautiful. Just so
Such
beautiful.
a pretty color.
Yes. I was stunned when I saw that it was a garnet, and I'm like, purple garnets? I'm doing on me. And I think you talked about the question I had regarding Mozambique, because a lot of the gemstones that you have come from Africa. And my question is it just that the world produces gemstones in Africa more frequently than others, or is it more of a socioeconomic kind of a thing where we can't in America we don't mine as much because maybe we are extracting oil from the ground, or because of the OSHA regulations and things of that nature? Because I know there's diamonds in Arkansas, there's Montana sapphire, all that good thing. So
it's twofold, MJ. If it were as simple as that, we could probably figure out how to get around that.
yeah.
It being a socioeconomic issue. My geography is not, or my geology is probably not as good as it is kind of secondhand. But I know that when we had the mass of the earth was solid and it slowly spread apart, there are certain veins of mineral that you find that come out of the Himalayan mountains. And you start with the Burma and the Afghani and Pakistani mines, and where Kashmir is involved. And if you follow the line of the break of the earth, it kind of goes along the southern tip of India and then straight through Sri Lanka. and into Madagascar, Mozambique, and Tanzania. So if we squished the world back together, got rid of all the water, you would see it, they all came from the Ural Mountains.
That's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Well, again, thank you so much for giving me permission to feature your gems in my book. This is the cover of the Gemstone Quilts book. It's being published by C&T. It'll be released October of this year. And it's actually available for pre-sale now. I'm excited about it. I've always wanted to do a book with C&T. And when I first started doing these gemstones 20 years ago, I started taking little notes thinking, well, maybe I'll make a book of this one day. So it's been kind of a dream come true. Now, just one last thing before I let you go. I know I've been monopolizing your time, but I could talk with you all morning about this, but I know.
And we sometimes do. Don't tell anybody, but we do.
Exactly. Well, you are my connection to the Smithsonian. I know you know Dr. Jeffrey Post and Christine Webb really well and made that introduction, so thank you for that. My next series of art quilts is going to be based on the National Gem Collection, and that includes gemstones like the Hope, which is in the middle, the Hooker Emerald, which is pointing to it here, and then other less well-known but equally beautiful gems like this fabulous ametrine. Oh, she's just a knockout. And then calcite. Calcite you'll never see in jewelry because it's just so soft. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, this little guy over here, this gal over on the left, she is the mock-up for my very first one. She's going to be inspired by the Victoria Transvaal, a giant amber cognac pear shape. She's going to be about 8 feet tall, about 4.5 feet wide, and yeah, who knows how many pieces of fabric she's going to have. In fact, I have the chart right here, and then under here I've got a big box of all the pieces that have been cut up, so nobody sneeze.
Hey, there's one thing I can't wait to introduce you to. There's a new gemstone that the Smithsonian dedicated last year. It was, got donated, received a donation last year from, again, a very good friend of ours. Unfortunately, I didn't sell her the stone, but I have the pleasure to be intimate with her, the stone, and the Smithsonian. So we were invited to the unveiling. But it's a red topaz that is flame red, that when you get the image, it's going to sit right next to that diamond piece right there. It's mind-boggling. So just wait.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. Well, I'm going to go look that up once we finish here. So thank you, Lori. Is there anything else you want to share with us today? I just have enjoyed our conversation, as I always do.
No, someday when you get a collection of your students and co-quilters, I would love to see images of what they've produced. I wish, because I'm just a lowly gemstone dealer, I could afford more of them, but being able to see them is just as much a thrill.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Actually, some of my students are going to have work in the book. So that was just really generous of them to let me use their images. But yeah, I've got images of ideas of maybe we'll do an exhibit or something like that at a certain gallery that I know.
Oh, I'd never say no.
Thank you so much, Lori. I wish you the very best. Say hi to Dad. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.